Hello and welcome. In this video we'll be taking a look at the CH-47 Chinook mod for DCS. Right, so once you've downloaded the file you'll be greeted with your WinRAR or WinZip or 7-zip or whatever system you use to open these files. Inside will be the Chinook file, and that will need to go into your saved games, DCS Open Beta or stable version, whichever you use, into mods, into aircraft. If the folders aren't there you need to create them, and then obviously drag and drop into aircraft, and that's it installed basically. As you can see I've already got it in there. So yeah, who remembers when 17 Squadron are on Typhoons? That was some time ago. Anyway, let's get into the sim. Once you're in the sim, you look along the bottom for the icons. You'll see that the CH-47 is in. We set the wallpaper. That's quite a nice picture there. So yeah, we have the CH-47, and it's well, an interesting mod to say the least. So we'll get into it. So I have a Chinook on the helipad at Almanad Air Force Base, and we'll have a quick look at it. So going to the configuration, as you can see I've got it in a Desert United States Army paint scheme, same as it was in the picture on the front page. It comes with a load of liveries. There's a special ops variant with a refueling probe. Guns a go from, I think that might be Vietnam War era. RF camouflage, good old 80s camouflage. RF green, although I'm not too sure about that. That doesn't look quite right. And that United States Army Desert. And then there's just standard, which for some reason is that. So we'll go back into US Army Desert, and we'll have a look at configurations. So as you can see, we've got door gunners at the front there, and basically all gunned up. We've got a tail gunner there, and we've got some Marines in there. But if we clear that, so this ramp gunner section, so yeah, obviously you see, you get your ramp gunner there. Remove that. So there's also the choice of replacing these two windows either side with mid gunners, which I didn't know was a thing, to be honest. I don't know if the RAF have that configuration or not, but you can have mid gunners. Now obviously you've got your door gunners, pretty straightforward. Then there's this 40mm grenade launcher on the chin. I've never in my life seen that in any photos, but I will certainly go and have a look for one. Looks like he's smiling. Once I've finished here, because it looks like a really interesting bit of kit. And then there's these as well, rocket launchers. I didn't even know you could arm a Chinook up with little winglets, so we can take those off, grenade launchers. We can also have guns, Gal 19s, but for some reason in the configurator they don't show up. But then again, I've had mods in here before that don't show up on there. I'm not sure if they show up or not in the actual sim. This is empty. This is for your Marines in the back. So that basically looks like the inside of the C-130 Hercules mod. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's an Anubis thing or not. That one stays empty, and then you can obviously have cargo, two sets of what it calls marine supplies. So yeah, and then you've got this last one which also stays empty. But then you've got pre-configuration, so you've got guns a go-go for the Vietnam era one, Marines obviously there, and RAF, which, as I say, we have the door gunners, and then there's special ops again with the Chin grenade launcher, which is completely new to me. And you'll also see that a few of the different variants have different inlet filters. So this is your basic EAPS. Then you've got guns a go-go with no protection there at all, and then the RAF variant with the meshed cone version of it. I'm not sure if we actually do use that version of it at all. I could be wrong. Anyway, yeah, that's for configurations. So I'm going to put that back into US Army and remove that. Actually no, we'll go with Special Ops, one because it's got the refueling probe and I want to show that in action, and what we'll do is we'll just load it up as much as we can and stick it in the sim, and so I'm going to have to do 2 different flights. We'll do a Special Ops flight, show all of these bits in action, and then I'll do a Guns a Go-Go version. So we'll jump into the sim. So we'll start off outside. As you can see, we're all in our Special Op get up with tinted windows, which is a bit strange. Guns of all shapes and sizes, and we've got the refueling probe and some sort of laser designating pod possibly on the side there next to the cockpit. Obviously tail gunner there. We do have a winch just outside above the door there, but as far as I know nothing is working for that. And if you remember me talking about the EAPS back in the configuration, which stands for Engine Air Particle Separator, they're the pods on the front of the engines. So the RAF used the coned variant, the mesh cones, and it seems that the Americans use a more diverse and more complicated, I would have said, variant of the EAPS, which is on here. Now these aren't very popular with the Chinook pilots because the Lycoming T-55s have a habit of obviously sucking things in when at low level, and they like to check the engines before each flight, as any good pilot would. Now the problem with the EAPS is that you can't get in there to look down the intake of the engine, so pilots were a bit uneasy about flying aircraft that they couldn't examine in detail before the flight. So the idea was to pull the EAPS canisters forward after every 25 flight hours to examine for any damage and for anything that could possibly be in there. And after many of these inspections showed up severe damage on the inlet, and also the swell cups inside the EAPS, it was decided that maybe should check them a bit more regularly. And not a great idea if you can't check the engines before flight. Trusting the aircraft is going to be an issue. So not very popular. So we'll have another look around just quickly. So as you can see on the blade tips, we seem to have some tip lights. It's a shame we couldn't get the Cops Etchel effect. That'd be great. If you don't know what that is, that's where blades are spinning fast in a dusty or sort of sandy environment, and it's where the sand particles are being hit by the tips of the blades, and makes this really awesome effect. I'll see if I can slip a picture in now. Okay, so now time to jump into the cockpit. Okay, so let's get the controls over and done with. So, access commands. You will want collective, obviously. You're going to want pedals, which is apparently what they're known here as. Then you've got the cyclic pitch, cyclic roll. There would be the zoom function. That would be a lot of help, but not there. So assist if you want active pause, autopilot, don't think that works on here. Communications, this one will be your rearming and refueling as such, but on my I have to reassign it because for some reason my keyboard shows as OEM 102 instead of backslash. Countermeasures, set your countermeasures and your electronic countermeasure switch. Crew control, this is for your different stations, pilot, co-pilot, left gunner and right gunner, and obviously if you've got more than one person in the cockpit, to switch control over from one person to another. Labels, no. Lighting, pretty much all the switches are there, so a lot easier to flick a switch than it is to just keep messing around with the keyboard. I'm going to set night vision goggles, actually. Set that down. I've not used this in the dark yet, as I'm not really confident with it in the day, to be honest. Right wall, just your more lights, sensors, electro-optical, laser ranger, night vision or low light TV, RWR, that does work, but again there's a switch right next to it you could flick. Systems, so we've got cyclic trims here. Now I've used other free helicopter mods before, i.e. the Bell 47 and the AH6, which trimmed really nicely. It did as it was told. If you wanted to trim left, you could trim left and it would trim that way. Up, down, left, right, it would do as it was told. This thing doesn't know what it's doing, and I'll show you when I get into the cockpit, which is why I'm not a great fan of this at the moment. Cyclic trim save, I'm not sure what that does. Reset doesn't work. Helmet mounted display doesn't work. Throttle up, throttle down is what I will be using on the keyboard, quite simply because when you use it on an axis, like maybe a spare throttle, it doesn't power up all the way to 100, so you can't get to the next point in the checklist, which is really irritating because you'll end up with things flashing up in this corner, as you'll see soon. Will brake, can't set. Would be handy, but not set. Weapons, change your weapon. Gunfire with a trigger, weapon selector, or gun selector, sorry, master arm, and then you've got your turret at the front, which I believe those are for the chin turret. Uncage, which you'll want to do, and obviously weapon release for the rockets. Right, so the first problem, and it's the first thing I do whenever I get in any mod, is zoom in and out to make sure that I can look around properly without any issues. Currently there isn't a zoom function, so if I want to look at things I'm physically having to lean back and lean forward to look at stuff, which obviously, yeah, it makes it a bit more realistic, but when your neutral seating position is like this and you can't see a damn thing and you have to physically lean back in your chair to be able to see the cockpit instruments, yeah, that's an issue, because I'm pushing on rudder pedals at the moment, and which means this is going to be a bit of a dodgy flight. So yeah, there is that. So I'll just lean back a little bit more and we'll have a quick look around the cockpit before we do start up. So this is your pitch indicator, where you trim in pitch and in bank. That doesn't work. Your altimeter, it works, but you can't zero it. Your artificial horizon, that works. Your not indicated airspeed indicator, that works. RPM gauge, that works. Backup artificial horizon, that works. Clock, obviously you can see that works. Turn slip indicator, as far as I know, doesn't work, but we'll see in flight. None of the navigation modes there work. None of these MFD buttons work. That's your course correction, that doesn't work. This one is your radio compass, believe that does work, and that's some sort of backup compass, and that is obviously that's an alpha jet or something of that kind of persuasion, and that is also a compass, a heading bug. Well, it's taken from one of those anyway. Then we've got fuel flow, temperatures, and all lovely things like that, and your electronics, gauges, hydraulics, that does work as far as I know, as well as all these other gauges here, temperatures and things like that. Your RWR, that does work. You flick the switch. Now you can pull the fire suppression switches here, but that just seems to be a fuel off switch. I've not pulled that yet to make sure it does anything. That's just a carbon copy of over here, except over that side obviously. Then you've got your annunciator panel there, that kind of works. You've got your various bits and pieces here, nav, radio and all that. None of that is clickable, none of that is obviously can be used at all. Then you've got your countermeasures, that they work. Weapons station, that works. That's your comms radio, but that just plays music, which I will not play because I may get a copyright strike. Again, comms switches, nothing there. As we travel back, more comms, nothing there. None of any of this stuff works. Steering, that's for the ground. I've read that does work, but as you can't actually physically taxi this aircraft, that won't get used at all. Another VHF radio there, some more comms there. There's your checklist for startup, so you click that, and then you've got your big checklist there. Obviously I've got to lean back to read it. Put that back down. Up the top here, hydraulics, the cargo door works, and power transfer switches, they work. Everything else, no. Here we've got cargo hook, none of that works. Here we've got the cable for the winch, doesn't work, or for underneath anyway. none of these switches work. You've got the pilot lighting, none of that works. You've got then you've got flood lighting, they all work. Well, majority of them do anyway. These are your more lighting switches that don't do anything. Your fuel tanks, fuel tank switches, your flight engine control levers. There's your FADEC. Obviously none of that's clickable. Well, actually, tell a lie, that one is. That's your engine start. Over here you've got APU and batteries, so your electrics, they all work. Over that side, actually what we'll do is we'll switch seats. Press 2. Okay. Then we go heating, troop worn jumping, so when you want to kick the guys out the back, you use those. Compass, co-pilot lighting, and your formation lights, switches there. Everything else behind is just pictures, and yeah, that's it. Then you've got obviously rudder pedals, your cyclic and collective, which bounces when you're in when you've got the parking brake on. So yeah, that's the tour of the cockpit. Next will be startup. So let's get this thing started. Start by clicking the ignition lock to unlock. Next we go to the overhead panel. Want battery on, APU on, APU generator on. And now you can just about make a whining sound in the background. So that's good, we've got APU power going. Next we want power transfer to 1 and 2. Then over to the engine air particle separator 1 here. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And turn on EEPS number 2. Fuel crossfeed on. Engine control levers to ground. And now we can start. Press and hold until we get 2,800 RPM on the gauge here. See, we've got some rotor turning now. And once you get to 2,800, it's just a matter of letting go of the button and it will do the rest itself. It's just getting it there. And it stops, let go. There we go. Everything comes to life. And now we want to keep the power going in flight, so switch on the generators. Second one will go on itself, and then we want to turn the APU generator off, the crossfeeds off, transfer sorry, and the APU switch off. And then last but not least, engine control levers into flight. Now this is where I use the page up and down quite simply because when I used an access for it, it didn't register and it just kept flashing increase RPM to 100%, which was really annoying, so I just used the keyboard. So pressing page up, increase the RPM. And you see it will change in the top corner there, unlock parking brake. Now I'm going to keep it at around 4,000 RPM because I don't want to be heading off into the clouds. And this is what happens when you attempt to take off with the parking brake on. Lift off, and you can see we'll bounce back down again and down again. Basically it's like we're attached to a big bungee cord, so it won't let us take off without unlocking the parking brake. Taxiing this thing on the ground is impossible. I've not been able to do it. Every time I've tried, it just tries to tip itself over, so let's just throttle that up quickly and get rid of that. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to take off very slowly, advancing the collective, and just pulling back gently on the stick until we're off the ground. I apply a little bit of left rudder because otherwise it just starts to try and turn to the left, but I find if I apply a little bit of left rudder it starts to behave itself. Okay, as you can see it's turned to the right now, and also until you get over 150 knots this thing really doesn't like flying, unless you start already in flight. This thing just is a pain in the backside. It does come with an input file for Warthog if you have a Warthog. I don't, so I've had to set up the controls all by myself. But I've read that if you put that Warthog file into your joystick folder and then load those controls up, it should behave itself. Unfortunately for me, I don't have the expenses for a Warthog. I have an X56 Rhino, so I'll just have to make do with wrestling this thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, once it gets up and running, it's not a bad little machine. It's the initial getting there. But if you start in flight, you have no issues. I mean, as you can see now, it's quite nice. We're at 150 knots, and it flies lovely. But it's just getting off the ground. So there you go. Let's start up takeoff. I'll try and bring it in for a landing. I've not used all my collective and I've not used all the throttle. Like I say, I only want to keep low. I don't want to be heading towards the clouds. So if you're dropping marines and things like that, you will have to use full throttle, obviously, and you probably will have to use full collective. So let's bring this round. Let's aim for a pad somewhere that's got plenty of space. There's a big ramp over there near where I took off from, and try and bring the speed down and land the thing. I'm no whirlybird expert at all by any means, so don't expect this to be pretty. So I've got collective all the way back now. Start pulling up. Nose up slightly. So get over the target area. Okay. Go. Go. Launch the throttles. Collective slightly. I don't want to be crashing into the ground. Safe, and we made it. So next up will be weapons, and I'm just going to jump into that now. Next up, weapons. So we're going to need to go down here and flick up. Oh, it's already set on. Next up, weapons. I've got some targets just there, which I'm going to have a go at in a minute, but first I'll show you the gunners. So we're going to turn master arm on, flick this over to gunners. This is really strange because it goes to gunners, to rockets, to guns, then to cannon, whereas I would have had it going guns, cannon, gunners, rockets, then to nothing. So we've got gunners. Now with the pull of a trigger, everybody on board will fire their gun. So I'm going to need to drop the back ramp. Outside view, and now you can see we have a tail gunner. Now if we pull the triggers, targets because I've got to try and look for the targets and aim the guns and fire the guns, and that's too much for my tiny little brain to do. So that's just to show you the gunners switch to rockets, and for that we're going to need this guy here, the gun sight, and if we click that, click that there, you'll see now the gun sight has moved down. Not that this is much help anyway, because we've got no way of, well, there's no guide to tell you which angle you need to be firing at which dive angle, at what speed, so it's just a matter of clicking and hoping for the best. So if I come out of active pause, right, okay, let's head out towards the targets. Oscillation sorted out, for Christ's sake. Right. Over 150 knots now, it should calm down. There we go. Nice. Okay, so we get over to, got pipper over the target. Got one, got two, got three. Okay, so that worked pretty good. Next will be the nose-mounted grenade launcher. For that we need to flick that over. See, if I had guns on the winglets instead of rockets, that is what I would use as the selector for that, and then click it again. Now we have chin-mounted turret. See if I uncage it, can I move it around? No, okay. Right, so let's make our way round. Let's give these guys some grenade fun. Again, it's just shoot and hope for the best, so obviously that was way too early. You have to be pretty close for these ones, I'm guessing. And we did hit one. But yeah, that's the chin-mounted grenade launcher. And obviously we have countermeasures. Go down here, click that, that's already armed, click that for flares, and if we go outside view, you can see I've lost control because I'm doing too many things at once. Okay, so yeah, we have flares. So countermeasures is always a good thing. So yeah, that's weapons. Now I'm going to move on to dropping troops. Right, so you say you want to drop some Marines. Okay, fair play. So, in the good old 80s RAF colour scheme. So we have our guys in the back there, ready to jump out. Now, to do this, again, I'm going to click all this in active pause because it's just too much for my brain at the moment. So we're going to need to open the ramp, obviously, so click that, and click again. So now we have a ramp open. Now I'm going to jump into the co-pilot seat. Up here, we're going to switch jump alarm on and light from red to green. Another thing I forgot to show you in the cockpit tour was the windscreen wipers. It's quite sweet. Okay, so yeah, got a green light for jumping, the alarm's going, and the ramp is open. So now we want to get the guys out the back. So if we come out of active pause and try and keep this stable for long enough. Now what I'm going to do is try and drop them down the centre line of the runway. Obviously we don't want to be going too quick. And I've already drifted off the centre line, so that's a fail. To drop these guys out the back, all you need to do is pull and hold the trigger. Now as they jump out, a flare will come out as well. I'm not sure if that's so it illuminates the landing zone in the dark or what, but yeah, the guy comes with a flare. So let's press and hold. Now. All the guys are out, so we can turn around and get a look at them before they hit the deck. They do fall quite quickly, to be fair. There they are. Excellent stuff. Okay, so that's dropping guys out the back. Now, you can drop cargo, but for the life of me, I cannot find how to do that. I've tried many times, pressing many buttons, trying many controls, and nothing. So if you know how to drop cargo, because I can't find it either on the forum page or in any of the documentation that came with it, if you could let me know, that would be absolutely brilliant. Also, just going to chuck it out there, is there anything that you guys want me to review, or is there any tutorials that you want doing, because I'm getting to the point now where I'm not sure what you guys would want next, so use the comment section and let me know. I'm always up for a challenge, so yeah, I'll bring this in for a landing and then I'm going to call it a day. Happy with that drop. So let's try this again. I'm going to aim for the ramp space over there. See if I can stop it on this ramp here. Bit heavy, but we're down. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and as always, take care and I'll catch you in the next one.